Hi everyone, it's Beth Alcazar here at the 2017 USCCA Expo in the beautiful and not too terribly hot Fort Worth, Texas. We're having such a wonderful time. There's an outstanding amount of ladies here, and I've got one of those outstanding ladies with me today to talk about some just concepts, ideas, and thoughts about women in concealed carry and women in the industry. You may have seen or heard of this lady before. This is Randy Rogers. Randy, thank you for talking with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for the invite, Beth. I am excited.
Yes, this is such a great topic. And I told Randy earlier, I'm excited to talk to her because I really want to know all of her answers. So let's first start out. How did you get involved with shooting or the industry in the first place?
Well, Beth, I practically grew up in the industry. I started shooting when I was 11 years old.
Oh my.
I started competitive shooting with my grandparents. They were cowboy action shooters.
Wow.
And so I truly was raised around guns and in the industry. And so they started a little shooting school business. And so while I was in high school, I worked for them in the summers and after school, and I went and I taught with them. And then I studied sales and marketing when I went to college. And so when I was able to graduate, I got a job in the industry, first at a gun company, and now I work at a holster company.
Wow.
And I've got to continue shooting. I'm now on the Smith & Wesson shooting team, so my life is kind of a dream.
That is really outstanding. I know a lot of the ladies I've talked to in the industry have either that story or the complete opposite. It's either I grew up in it or I never touched a gun before. And it's so fantastic to see how all those stories still blend together in such a powerful way for women, and they can identify with either end of that. But one thing that I love about you, being a competitive shooter, I've dabbled in it, and I do a little, but talk about that. I mean, what gets women involved in the first place? You grew up with it, but what do you think is the passion or the inspiration to get women involved with competitive shooting?
Well, you know, it's funny. A lot of women from older generations, like my mom and my grandmother, you know, they weren't taught to be competitive.
Right.
You know, my grandmother, when she was in high school, her PE was banned. You know, she wasn't taught to kick or throw a ball. She wasn't taught to be part of a team. And so I think a lot of women from our younger generations, you know, the world is really opening up to us in so many ways. And one of those is we have this a chance to be competitive. And we have this chance to spread our wings. And so I think women are getting more excited about shooting competitively, hunting, the outdoors, fishing. I mean, I would say there's probably as many women here as there are men, and they all want to know about holsters and they all want to know about shooting.
Do you see that there's a big crossover with that? Like you see, it's not just one single element, like it's not just hunting, or it's not just concealed carry, or it's not just competitive. You see lots of dabbling in all those areas with the women that you are encountering?
You know, it's funny. A lot of the women that I encounter, they'll make the entry into the industry at one point. Like they'll say, okay, well, I went turkey hunting and I really enjoyed it. And then suddenly they realize that there's this whole world out there, and it becomes a lifestyle. And they start out maybe turkey hunting or deer hunting, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I could do handguns. Exactly.
Yeah,
you know, I could conceal carry. I could protect my home. I could go shoot steel plates, you know?
Absolutely. And what are you thinking about just in general when it comes to women in concealed carry? How do you feel about women protecting themselves? How do you encourage them to take control over their own safety?
You know, that's always been my big thing. It's been something that's really important to me. I got to see it growing up. You know, my grandparents were there. My grandfather was obviously the head of the household, but I saw my grandmother concealed carrying, you know, as a teenager and as a young person. And, you know, we would go out shopping together, and she's a tiny little woman. She's 5 foot tall, weighs 90 pounds soaking wet, you know, but we were never afraid to go anywhere. And it's not that we went into back alleys. But, you know, we could go shopping on Saturday night and not be afraid if we would make it home, you know, and that was so huge to me growing up. And I want women to feel safe, and I want them to feel strong. And concealed carrying can be a little intimidating, but it's one of those things that if you give it a chance, you're gonna love it.
And dealing with that too, you said you grew up with it, you had such a fabulous role model. But what do you say to those women, maybe more like me? We didn't have any firearms in the house ever. Nobody was against it, but nobody ever really thought about it. What do you say to the woman who has never touched a gun, never had a gun in the household, or maybe is still intimidated by it?
You know, it's one of those things that I can tell them I can identify with it, because I've got to see a lot of my friends, you know, going to college and seeing a lot of the girlfriends that I met there, you know, they never shot growing up. It wasn't something their family did, but it was one of those things that if you give it a chance, you would be surprised. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be dangerous. It doesn't have to be something that causes fear. It can be something that causes joy. You know, if you've ever been to the range and you've hit a steel plate and you've heard it ring, you know how it can change your life.
And I think that's one thing that maybe women are almost not embarrassed by, but maybe surprised by, that they really do enjoy it.
Well, that, and they can do it.
Yes.
You know, shooting is not something that takes a lot of muscle or
Right.
a lot of speed or a lot of physical ability. You know, it's something that almost everybody of any shape, size, or skill level, they can do it. And if they put in a little bit of work, they can really excel at
Right.
it.
And any age too.
Yes.
It's fantastic. You said your grandmother was involved from, most of your life, but it's great to see more grandmothers and older ladies who are living by themselves or wanting to protect their grandkids perhaps getting involved. So, well, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your wisdom, your background, and hopefully this is encouraging to other ladies who are out there who want to get involved, whether with concealed carry. Maybe they just want to know what gun to use or what holster to use. This is a fantastic resource right here. Randy is amazing. But also to encourage people maybe to step out of that box a little, step out of that comfort zone. Maybe try a turkey hunt, or maybe try the world of competitive shooting. But for now, I think I'm going to chew her ear just a little bit more so I can learn some tips and tactics for when I go to my next match. But thanks again for joining us here at the 2017 USCCA Expo in beautiful Fort Worth, Texas.